A false bottom hides more than wood. Dolly Bantry leaned over the chest. Her finger tapped the lid. "It came this morning," she said. Miss Marple watched quietly. The chest sat between them, square and plain, but Dolly's eyes carried weight. "Abel always liked strange boxes," Dolly added. She half smiled, half frowned. This one was listed in his estate, shipped after the reading of the will. Marple tilted her head. "Odd timing," she murmured. She pressed her palm to the wood. The chest gave back a dull echo. "Heavier than it should be," Dolly said. Her voice lowered. "Tea shouldn't weigh this much." News spread quickly in the village. By afternoon, 6 tongues wagged. Abel collected everything, one said. "Junk, treasure, who knew the difference?" another added. Miss Marple listened, nodding. "Strange he kept a tea chest," she noted. "He never drank tea, only broth." That caught Dolly off guard. She blinked. "Are you certain?" "Quite certain," Marple replied. "I once offered him Ceylon. He refused, said it left him queasy." The chest sat, silent, too silent. Dolly rubbed her hands together. "I tried lifting one side, nearly pulled my arm. That can't be tea." Villagers peered in, one by one. Riggs, the chauffeur, offered a grin. "Could be bricks." Abel had a sense of humor. "Or debts," muttered another voice. "Men hide coins the way women hide ribbons." Dolly looked uneasy. "Abel's legacy isn't tidy. His widow insisted on this chest being delivered here, not to her." "Interesting," Marple said softly. "Most widows cling to everything left behind, yet she sends this away." The lid bore a label. It looked crisp, too crisp. Marple leaned close. "The handwriting, doesn't it seem recent?" Dolly squinted. The ink still shone faintly. Her breath caught. Abel's papers were always yellowed. "This is sharp. New." Marple nodded. Her finger traced the corners of the label. "Fresh paste, too." Riggs chuckled. "Maybe someone repacked it. Nothing strange." But Marple's eyes narrowed. "On the contrary," she said, "every repacking tells a story, and this story tries too hard." The villagers fell silent. Dolly stared at her friend, then back at the chest. The weight, the silence, the ink. It was not ordinary. It was not simple. Her voice dropped to a whisper. The room seemed to lean closer. "Then why is the label fresh?" "Locks keep out thieves, not truth." Inspector Slack bent over the chest. He rapped his knuckles against the lid. The sound was dull. "Solid," he muttered. "More solid than tea." Dolly stood close. Her eyes darted at the corners. "Look there," she said quickly. By the hinge. Slack crouched. His thick fingers traced the edge. The wood bore scratches, not random, purposeful. "Someone pried at this," he said, then hammered it shut again. Dolly frowned. "So it was opened? Recently?" Slack nodded. He lifted his brow at Marple. "Not what you'd call storage damage. Too clean, too recent." Marple leaned in. She adjusted her spectacles. "Yes, the scraping is precise, as if someone tested the seal, then resealed it." Her eyes flicked to Dolly. "Deliberate, not careless." Slack sniffed. "Which means someone wanted to get in, or keep something in." Dolly pressed her palms together. Abel's widow swore she never touched it. Slack gave a short laugh. "Widows swear many things. Doesn't make them true." Marple stayed calm. She pointed at a thin rim of paste by the edge. "This adhesive is fresh. Whoever sealed it worked recently. The color hasn't dulled." Slack scratched his jaw. "Paste, new label, scratched hinges. That's too much coincidence." He tapped the side again. "Still heavy. Whatever's inside was worth resealing." Dolly whispered, "What if?" "It's money." Slack shot her a look. "Money doesn't smell. Marple's lips curved slightly. But other things do. They exchanged a glance. The chest sat between them, stubborn, mute. Slack pulled a small tool from his pocket. He slid it under the corner of the label. The paper lifted slightly. The glue clung, still soft. "Too new," he muttered. He pressed it back down with his thumb. Dolly shivered. "It feels wrong. Why send it here? Why not keep it?" Marple replied softly. "Because sending it here hides the intent. People expect Dolly Bantry to keep curiosities. Few question it. The perfect disguise." Slack straightened. "Then the question is simple. Do we open it now?" Dolly's lips trembled. Her heart wanted yes. Her nerves begged no. Marple remained steady. Sometimes waiting tells more than rushing. "Let us see if the chest tells us first." Slack scowled. He pressed his hand flat on the lid. A faint hiss escaped from the edge. Dolly stiffened. Slack jerked his head up. "Did you hear that?" Marple leaned closer. Her nostrils flared. Something drifted out. Sharp, distinct, unmistakable. Bergamot. Every lie leaves a scratch. Slack crouched near the hearth. His hand pressed against the bricks. One shifted under his touch. "Loose," he muttered. He pried it forward. The hollow behind it yawned. Inside sat nothing, just dust. But the scrape lines were clear. Something had once been hidden there. Dolly gasped. "Abel never repaired this hearth. I'd have noticed." Marple's eyes narrowed. "Someone placed something here, then took it back." Slack grunted. "A hiding place. Temporary. That means movement after death." Dolly clutched her shawl tighter. "You mean someone returned, while the body still lay inside?" "Exactly," Slack said. His tone was flat. "The scratches are fresh, not years old." The twist came fast. Riggs the chauffeur leaned in. "Inspector, I saw a light that night, near the kitchen window." Slack snapped his head up. "You never said that." Riggs swallowed hard. "I thought it nothing. The rain blurred it. But now—" Dolly stiffened. "Then someone entered after the storm. Someone who had reason." Marple touched the brick again. Her voice was soft, certain. "The hearth was used as a signal. Hide something. Remove it later. Timed with the storm so the noise covered it." Slack nodded slowly. "Which means whoever returned had a plan." He turned. His boot kicked the kettle by accident. It sloshed. Water spilled out onto the hearth. Slack frowned. He bent, sniffed. "Rainwater." Dolly blinked. "How can you tell?" Haydock answered instead. "It lacks the metallic tang from the pipes. This water came straight from the sky." Marple's lips pressed thin. "Then the kettle wasn't filled by Abel. It was placed here after the storm." Slack growled. "Another staged scene. They boiled something, left it behind. Thought no one would test the water." Haydock's eyes darkened. "Timing fits. The storm passed midnight. That's when the hearth was opened. That's when the kettle was used." Dolly's breath caught. "Boiled. For tea?" Slack barked a laugh. "Or to fake tea. To stage it. Poison, perhaps." Marple's hand lifted slightly. Her gaze cut the air like a blade. "Remember, Abel loathed tea. He never drank it. That is why this clue matters." The kettle hissed faintly on the stone. The brick sat crooked. The room was still. Dolly muttered the words no one wanted to hear. But who boiled tea Abel hated? Spiders never tie half hitches. Marple bent low at the window frame, her eyes fixed on the broken web. One strand dangled strangely. Slack leaned over her shoulder. "It's just a cobweb," he said. Marple shook her head. "No, look closer." The strand looped back on itself. Tight, firm, a half-hitch knot. "Spiders don't tie knots," Marple whispered. Her tone left no room for doubt. Dolly gasped. Then someone tied it by hand. Marple nodded once. Precisely. A person cut through the web, then tried to retie it, thought no one would notice. Slack grunted. Someone clumsy. Not clever. On the contrary, Marple said. Clever enough to return. Clever enough to think the detail mattered. She touched the frame lightly. The chest was shifted. The knot proves it. Dolly blinked. But when? Marple's eyes sharpened. At night, after the death, while the village slept. Slack's jaw tightened. Who in their right mind tampers with evidence after a body's found? Marple replied softly. Someone who feared discovery. Someone desperate to remove or replace what they first hid. Dolly pressed a hand to her throat. So the chest wasn't left alone even after Abel died. Marple gave a thin smile. No criminal sleeps well. They came back. They always come back. Haydock arrived just then, shaking his head. I examined Abel again. The poison acted quicker than broth could explain. Slack snapped around. What are you saying, Doctor? Haydock frowned. I'm saying the food didn't matter. Something else delivered the dose. Marple lifted a finger toward the chest. The chest moved, the cup staged, the web tied. It all points to one truth. Slack scowled. Speak plainly, madam. Marple adjusted her spectacles. The killer wasn't satisfied with the first staging. They risked returning, to shift the chest, to adjust the scene, to keep suspicion away. Dolly's breath came sharp. But that means the house wasn't empty, not even after he was gone. Slack gripped the sill, which means someone inside the circle of trust, someone bold. Marple's tone was quiet, but firm. The knot betrays them. The chest's position betrays them. Nothing stays hidden when habit takes over. The room hung in silence. Every face turned to the chest once more. Dolly's voice trembled as she gasped the words aloud. Then someone returned after death. Fibers cling when guilt trembles. Slack bent over the open chest. His fingers brushed the corner. Something rough clung there. He pinched it free. A thin piece of jute thread. Blue. He held it up to the light. See this? He barked. Someone left more than scratches. Dolly leaned in. It caught in the wood. Her eyes widened. From a sack? Slack nodded. Not ordinary twine. Jute, used for storage. Haydock stepped closer. He rubbed the thread between his fingers. Yes, but not common. Dolly frowned. Why not? Haydock explained quickly. Most village sacks are plain. Brown jute. Cheap. This, he held the fiber up, was dyed blue. Fewer suppliers. Costlier. Marple tilted her head. Which means whoever brought this chest here used sacks unusual for the village. Slack's face hardened. Unusual makes tracing easy, Dolly whispered. So this little piece tells us more than the whole chest. Exactly, Marple said softly. Criminals ignore small things, but small things shout louder than large ones. Slack grunted. Then we ask, who in this village trades in blue, thread jute? Haydock didn't wait. I know at once. Only one merchant. He orders his supplies from Bristol. Likes the blue weave because it marks his stock apart. Dolly's eyes darted between them. You mean Weller? The grain man? Slack's lips curled. Weller. He turned the thread in his fingers. Found in Abel's chest. Hidden under false boards. And no one else keeps this color. Marple's eyes glinted. The thread does not lie. Whoever handled the chest left a mark. Not through carelessness, but through habit. He always uses those sacks. And habit betrayed him. Dolly's breath caught. Then the chest never came straight from Abel's keeping. It passed through another hand. Slack straightened. And that hand belongs to Weller. Haydock shook his head. We should tread carefully. Thread alone doesn't prove guilt. Marple agreed softly. But it narrows the circle, and it pushes the story forward. Why would Abel's chest bear another man's mark? Dolly's voice trembled. Because Abel never touched Weller's goods. He refused trade after that quarrel. Slack's eyes darkened. Which means Weller lied. Lied bold. Lied to my face when he claimed no dealings. He crushed the thread between his fingers. His voice cracked like a whip. That narrows it fast. Numbers lie less than tongues. Slack dropped a heavy book on the table. Abel's ledger. The leather cracked as he opened it. Dolly leaned forward. She tapped a page. See there, the dates jump. Slack frowned. Entries missing. Marple adjusted her spectacles. She scanned the columns. Yes, payment stopped mid-month. Resumed 2 weeks later. Odd gap. Haydock crossed his arms. Perhaps Abel was ill. Marple shook her head. No, Abel never left accounts unfinished. He prided himself on order. Even his debts were tidy. Dolly's finger slid across a faint smudge. Look, ink rubbed away. Slack bent low. He scraped gently with a fingernail. Dark lines ghosted back. Something erased, he muttered. Marple nodded. Erased means deliberate. Someone removed proof. Not laziness. Theft. Dolly shivered. But from his own ledger. Who dared? Slack's eyes narrowed. Someone close. Someone who thought they'd inherit anyway. Wipe it now. Gain it later. Marple leaned back. Her voice was quiet. The chest. Heavy. Resealed. And now these vanished numbers. They joined together. The chest didn't just hide objects. It hid debts, or gains not meant to be seen. Dolly swallowed. You mean Abel was robbed? Marple tilted her head. Not robbed. Covered. As if someone acted in his name. Took profit. Kept it off the record. Then sealed away what might betray them. Haydock's brow furrowed. That chest carried more than tea. It carried a disguise. Slack slapped the ledger shut. And Weller's thread sits in the chest. His mark. His habit. Marple lifted a hand. Careful. Threads point. They do not convict. But this ledger speaks louder. Someone dipped into Abel's accounts. And someone feared Abel would notice. Dolly nodded quickly. And when he did, he died. Slack finished. The room went still. The ledger sat between them like a witness. Marple's gaze stayed on the faint rubbed lines. Look again. The numbers erased match payments. Regular. Steady. Someone was collecting quietly. Dolly whispered. But who? Who could reach his desk? Slack's mouth twisted. The widow. The servant. The merchant. All touched this house. Marple folded her hands. Then the chest was more than storage. It was the mask. Hide papers inside. Seal with paste. Pretend it was Abel's doing. Dolly pressed her lips tight. Abel trusted too easily. Marple's eyes glinted. And someone used that trust. Haydock's voice broke the silence. Low. Uneasy. Then who stole Abel's name? Taste betrays memory. Slack held up the cup. The rim stained faintly. He sniffed, frowned. Bergamot, he said flatly. He set it down. Abel never touched this. Dolly's brow furrowed. He loathed the taste. Everyone knew it. Marple nodded. Which means the cup is false. Not for drinking, for display. Slack grunted. Staged poisoning. A performance. Dolly shivered. But for whom? Us? The law? Slack tapped the handle. Doesn't matter. Whoever set this out wanted us to think T killed him. The twist came sudden. Haydock stepped forward. This cup, he said slowly. wasn't washed, but the others were. Marple looked up sharply. Others? Haydock nodded. In the scullery. 2 more cups. Clean. Dry. Only this one remained dirty. Slack's jaw clenched. So Abel sat alone? Not alone, Marple corrected. She held his gaze. 1 cup dirty. 2 washed. 3 used. Someone shared tea. Someone hid the proof. Dolly gasped. Then Abel wasn't poisoned privately. He was poisoned in company. Slack slammed the table, and they washed their own cups to erase the link. Marple's voice was soft but pointed, yet left this one behind, too eager to wash away guilt, too careless to notice the contradiction. Dolly whispered. The guilty hand shows more in haste. Haydock folded his arms. Whoever sat with him drank too, or at least pretended to, then destroyed the evidence. Slack sneered. Cowards. They thought soap hides crime. Marple studied the cup again. The bergamot trace is deliberate. It's too neat. Abel would never drink it. It wasn't meant to be consumed. It was meant to be found. Dolly's eyes darted to the chest. Then the chest and the cup. Both were props? Marple gave a single nod. Yes. The killer staged a play. But details betray the actor. Slack leaned over her. You're saying no poison here? I'm saying, Marple answered calmly, the cup was not the vessel. The cup was the message. A distraction. The room tightened. Every eye returned to the small porcelain trap. Slack swore under his breath. They're mocking us. Mocking me. Marple's voice cut through his anger. Her warning came cold and sharp. The cup was meant for show. Midnight leaves footprints. Dolly pressed her hands together. Her eyes shifted nervously. I heard it, she said. Slack leaned in. Heard what? Steps. After the storm. Near the back garden. Heavy steps. Slack straightened. You're certain? Dolly nodded quickly. I was half asleep. The rain eased. Then clear steps. Not Abel's. He never walked that late. Marple's gaze sharpened. Time? Just past midnight, Dolly whispered. Slack cursed under his breath. That ruins the widow's story. She swore no one left or entered after Abel went to bed. The chauffeur, Riggs, shifted uneasily, his voice low. I saw light too, near the shed. Slack snapped his head around. You saw it and kept quiet? Riggs swallowed. I thought it nonsense. Storm makes shadows, but it glowed. For a moment, like a lamp lit, then doused. Dolly's lips parted. Then someone was moving in the dark. Slack growled. And not just moving, sneaking. The tension thickened. Riggs looked cornered. I didn't want trouble, he said quickly. But now, yes, I swear I saw it. Marple's voice was calm. The alibis don't hold. If steps and light crossed the night, someone lied about their hours. Dolly gasped. But who? Slack paced once. The widow claimed she sat grieving. No movement. Weller claimed he was home. No travel. Yet someone walked. Marple nodded slowly. The storm is the key. It covered their return, but it also marked the truth. Because rain leaves more than sound. Slack froze. What do you mean? Marple pointed to the hearth. The kettle filled with rainwater, not from a pump, from the sky, which means someone left it outside during the storm. Dolly's breath caught. Then they carried it in, after midnight. Slack's eyes narrowed, and the widow swore she never touched it. But if the kettle was indoors, how did rain reach it? Marple's tone stayed steady. Because it wasn't indoors. Not until someone returned. After the storm. After Abel was dead. Dolly shook her head in disbelief. So every alibi fails. The chest shifted. The hearth disturbed. The kettle damp. Haydock muttered. And the poison slipped before anyone looked. Slack's fists tightened. Then one of them walked in the storm, lied bold, lied straight to me. Marple's eyes glinted. The liar forgot the rain. Grief masks greed poorly. The widow stood rigid by the chest. Her veil shadowed her face. Her hand pressed flat on the lid. "I never touched it," she said, her tone sharp. "I wanted it gone. That's why it was sent here." Slack's eyes narrowed. "You swear to that?" Her chin lifted. "On Abel's soul." Dolly watched her carefully. The widow's fingers twitched. A tremor ran through them as they brushed the wood. Marple noticed too, her voice calm. "The chest unsettles you," the widow snapped back. "Why should it?" "It holds nothing of mine." Slack gave a short laugh. "Strange answer. A wife usually guards her husband's property. You cast it away fast." The widow stiffened. "Abel's things bring pain. I wanted distance." Dolly leaned closer to Marple. She said the word too quick, as if rehearsed. Marple nodded slightly. "She fears what lies inside." Slack folded his arms. "Then why the shaking hands? If it means nothing, why tremble?" The widow glared. "You insult me." Slack shot back. "I test you. There's a difference." The widow's lips pressed thin. Her fingers clutched the edge of the lid now, white at the knuckles. Marple tilted her head. "Your gesture betrays you. You touch it, yet deny it. The body remembers what the mind hides." The widow's voice rose. "You think I meddled with this box?" "Never." Slack's tone hardened. "But you knew it was heavy. You knew before it was opened." The widow faltered. "No, someone told me." Dolly's gasp cut her off. "No one weighed it but us. You just revealed knowledge you shouldn't have." The widow froze. Her face drained. Words stumbled on her tongue. Marple's voice slipped into the silence. "Guilt leaks faster than tears. A small slip tells more than a scream." Slack leaned forward. "Admit you touched it. Admit you opened it. Admit you resealed it." The widow's breath grew short. "I will not." Slack's jaw tightened. "Then explain the thread. Explain the paste. Explain the timing. All roads lead here." The widow's eyes flicked wildly between them. Her fingers tapped the chest as if searching for strength. Dolly whispered, "She knows. She knows what it hides." Marple's voice was steady, sharp, and fear drives her hand even now. The widow's control cracked. Her words burst out like a knife drawn. "You think I killed him?" Whispers sharpened knives. By noon the village was stirring. Not with chores, with talk. 2 women lingered by the shop door. "The widow visits Weller too often," one said. "Too friendly, too quick." Another added, "Her purse never seemed full. Now her debts vanish like frost." The words spread. Slack caught them first. He turned to Dolly. "Debts cleared." "When?" Dolly shook her head. "I didn't know. She borrowed last winter. Small sums. She cried over them. Now nothing owed." Marple's voice was low. "Nothing vanishes without a hand paying it." Slack's mouth tightened. Weller again. They crossed paths with the grocer. He smirked knowingly. "She pays in full now. Always on time. And in coin, not credit." Dolly frowned. Strange. Abel was strict with money. He would never allow sudden spending. Slack tapped his notebook. "Motive grows fat. Weller trades sacks. Widow finds coin. Abel vanishes. The pieces fit." Marple lifted a hand. "Fit too neatly. The truth rarely ties itself so fast. Gossip sharpens a knife, but it cuts in every direction." Dolly bit her lip. "But still, if debts vanish, someone supplied the payment. Abel could not." Marple nodded slowly. "Correct. He was not generous. which means another source, perhaps the chest itself. Slack narrowed his eyes. Stolen money, hidden away. Weller moves it. Widow gains from it. Abel notices. Abel dies. Dolly whispered. And the chest arrives here, as cover. The grocer leaned in closer, eager. I'll tell you plain. I saw Weller hand her something. A purse. She tucked it fast. Thought no one looked. Slack snapped. When? Last week, the grocer replied. By the lane near the mill, Dolly gasped. So, not grief, not sorrow. She was already counting her new fortune. Slack closed his notebook. She lies bold. Claims she pushed the chest away in pain, yet gains coin from the one man tied to it. Marple studied the faces around her. Truth may hide in silence, but lies spread like fire. We must separate smoke from spark. Dolly's voice shook. Then Abel wasn't taken by chance. He was silenced because he saw too much. Slack's eyes darkened, because coin passed hands where it should not. The circle grew still. The gossip no longer seemed idle. It seemed like confession. Dolly leaned closer to Marple. Her voice was barely a breath. Then Abel was silenced for coin. Board split. Secrets spill. Slack forced the lid open. The nails screeched as they lifted. The chest groaned under the strain. Dolly leaned back, uneasy. What if it's empty? Then lies fill it. Slack muttered. He wedged the tool deeper. The wood cracked. Marple's eyes never left the seam. Her voice was calm. Wait, the bottom. Look at the edge. Slack paused. He peered closer. The boards didn't match. A thin gap ran along one side. A false floor, Marple said softly. Dolly gasped. You mean there's another layer? Slack drove the tool again. The board split upward. Dust scattered. Beneath lay a hidden pouch. Brown cloth, tied tight. Slack dragged it free. He untied the knot. The fabric unrolled. Paper slips spilled out. Small, folded. Ledger pages. Dolly's hand flew to her mouth. From Abel's book? Marple nodded. Entries torn out. The very ones erased in his ledger. Slack cursed. He kept proof here, or someone hid it here after tearing them away. More fabric clung under the papers. Blue, thread jute, familiar weave. Slack held it up. The color glared back at him. The merchant's mark again. Dolly whispered. So the chest wasn't storage. It was a vault of guilt. Marple's tone was sharp. And someone meant us to find it later. Not Abel. He had no reason to hide his own accounts. Haydock frowned. Then whose hand tore hid and sealed? Slack snapped the pouch shut. This proves more than gossip. More than whispers. Ledger slips don't erase themselves. Dolly looked pale. Abel's widow swore she never touched it. Weller swore he never dealt again. Yet both threads tie back here. Marple placed her fingers on the loose board. Crime leaves traces. Every false flaw tells its own truth. Slack stared at the pouch. Ledger fragments. Blue fabric. Too much to dismiss. Dolly's voice trembled. So Abel discovered it. He confronted someone, and they silenced him before he spoke. Marple answered gently. Or he was silenced to keep us from asking. Either way, this chest carries more than wood. Slack's eyes burned. His hand clenched the pouch tight. This seals it, he snapped, his voice sharp as a blade. He paused, then added darkly. Almost. Excuses rot faster than lies. Weller sat stiff in the chair. His hands clenched tight. His eyes darted between Slack and Marple. Slack leaned close. Enough dodging. The chest bears your mark. Speak. Weller swallowed. Yes, I handled it. His voice cracked. I patched the boards. I sealed it again. Dolly gasped. You admit it? Weller nodded slowly. But not for crime. For pity. Slack slammed the table. Pity doesn't explain blue thread in Abel's chest. Weller's words tumbled out. The widow begged me. She said Abel would shame her, said debts piled too high. She feared ruin. Dolly stiffened. So you helped her hide them? Yes, Weller said quickly. I tore pages, slipped them inside, sealed the chest. I thought I spared her disgrace. Slack sneered. And Abel? You think he would never find out? Weller's shoulders sagged. He was sick. I thought he'd never check. I never dreamed he would die. Marple's gaze was steady. You admit tampering, but you deny murder. Weller's chin lifted. On my soul, I never poisoned him. Dolly whispered. Then who did? Weller spread his hands desperately. Not I. I hid debts. Yes. But death. No. Slack barked. You profit from her lies. You trade coin for silence. That makes you guilty enough. Weller shook his head violently. You don't understand. She paid me nothing. She offered only pleas. I obeyed. Foolish. Yes. Murderous. No. The room felt tense. Every word hung sharp. Then came the twist. Haydock cleared his throat. There's more. I tested Abel's broth again. The poison wasn't recent. It built over days. Dolly gasped. So not one meal. Many. Marple's eyes narrowed. Which means the hand that fed him, not the hand that sealed the chest. Slack turned, stunned. You're saying... I'm saying... Haydock cut in. The killer lived near his plate, not his ledger. All eyes swung back to the widow. She froze, her breath shallow. Weller's voice cracked. There, you see? I meddled with papers. But the food only, she served it. The widow's face drained pale. Her lips parted. She tried to speak, but Marple's voice sliced through first. Cold. Certain. Not the whole truth. Mask slipped with tears. The widow's voice cracked. Her hands shook as she pressed a handkerchief to her face. Yes, she whispered. I staged the tea. I poured it. I set the cup by him. Dolly gasped. So you admit it? The widow nodded. Her eyes welled. But not for murder. I feared shame. I feared he would show the books. Everyone would know. I only meant to hide my debts. Slack sneered. You staged a poisoned cup. You call that fear, not murder? The widow raised her head. No poison, only the smell. Bergamot, nothing more. Abel hated it. I thought if the scene looked wrong, you would search there, not in the chest. Marple's gaze sharpened. You set a trap for the eye, not the hand. The widow's tears spilled now. I wanted suspicion to chase the cup, not me, not Weller. I thought you'd never open the chest, Slack growled. Yet Abel died. I didn't kill him, she cried. I swear it. He was frail. He was sick. He was... Haydock cut her short. No, he was not failing like that. His decline was sudden, steeper than illness alone. Something unnatural hastened it. The widow froze. Her lips parted. She shook her head too fast. No, you're wrong. Haydock's tone stayed flat. I tested him again. Traces point to repeated dosing. Small amounts. Built day by day. Not one night. Not one cup. Dolly whispered, horrified. So he was poisoned slowly? Marple's eyes never left the widow. Fear makes people clumsy. A staged cup cannot erase weeks of habit. Someone slipped poison each day. In his broth, in his food. The widow clutched her chest. I only staged what you saw. I never dosed him. I swear it. Slack slammed his palm on the table. Then who did? Who held his meals? Who brought him broth? No one answered. The silence hung heavy. Dolly's breath trembled. It was always her hand. She served him daily. The widow cried louder. Not me. Not me. Marple leaned closer. Her voice was calm, unshaken. Poison was slipped before the cup. Blue runs deeper than dye. Slack dropped the pouch on the blue. Lace. Table. The scraps spilled out. Ledger slips. Blue thread fabric. He shoved them toward the widow. Your chest. Your hands. Your debts. Explain. The widow shook her head. Her lips trembled. Not mine. Weller's doing. Slack's voice was harsh. But your purse grew fat. Your debts vanished. And his thread hides inside your husband's chest. Dolly stared at her. You swore you never touched it, yet you knew its weight. You knew what it held. The widow's face cracked. Tears threatened. I feared Abel's wrath. He would cast me out. He would leave me nothing. Marple's voice cut steady. So you borrowed, lied, and when he saw the truth, the widow interrupted with a sob. I never meant his death, only silence, only time to fix what I ruined. Slack slammed the table. You fed him poison, bit by bit, till he couldn't rise. Admit it. The widow's eyes darted around the room. Her voice shook. I added drops, only to weaken him, not to kill. I thought I could manage it. Dolly gasped. So it was you, all along. Haydock spoke flat. You built the sickness. It was no illness. It was your hand. The widow buried her face in her hands. Her words broke out jagged. Yes, I slipped it. Into his broth. Into his drink. Just enough to stop his fury. Marple's gaze never wavered. And when he grew weaker, you staged the tea. You hoped the scene would point us elsewhere. The widow nodded miserably. I feared exposure. I feared ruin. I thought if the cup looked guilty, you would search no further. Slack's fists clenched. You robbed him. You poisoned him. You used Weller to cover the trail. And then you dared to act the grieving wife. The widow's sobs filled the pause. Her shoulders heaved. Her mask was gone. Dolly whispered, horrified. Then all along it was her. Habit builds the trap. Marple stood calm as the others pressed forward. Her voice was even. Each piece fits, because habit fits it. She pointed to the window frame. The spider's knot. No spider ties half hitches. Only a human hand. A careful hand. The widow always tied her bundles that way. I saw her do it in the market. The widow flinched. Marple went on. The kettle. Rainwater inside. Abel never fetched water from outside. But the widow did. She always claimed pump water tasted wrong. So she left pots in the yard to catch the sky. Her own routine betrayed her. Dolly gasped. I remember. She always said the rain softened bread better than pump water. Slack's jaw tightened. Another link. Marple turned to the thread. The jute. Blue dye. Weller's stock. Yes. But who carried it in? The widow again. She reused those sacks for her linens. I saw them behind her shed. The habit carried into Abel's chest. Weller nodded bitterly. She begged me for them. Said she needed spares. I never guessed she would use them here. Marple placed her palm on the table. Finally, the tea. Bergamot. Abel loathed it, but the widow drank it often. She ordered it specially. Habit made her careless. She used what she knew, even in staging a scene. Dolly's eyes widened. So every clue ties back to her, not by chance, by habit. Marple gave a slow nod. Criminals hide their acts, but they cannot hide their patterns. Her routines shaped the lies, and the lies revealed the truth. The widow shook her head wildly. No, I meant only to quiet him, only to keep him from disgrace. Haydock's tone was grim. You poisoned him day by day. You weakened him till his heart gave way. That is no accident. That is murder." The widow broke down, sobbing. Her voice cracked. "I only wanted peace. I only wanted time." Slack stepped forward, his face hard. "Your peace cost Abel his life. Your time ended his." Dolly trembled. She thought habit would protect her, but it betrayed her. Marple adjusted her spectacles. Truth always rests in the small things, and small things become a net too tight to escape. The widow covered her face. Tears ran freely. Her body sagged in defeat. Slack's words fell sharp, final. Justice waits for her. Secrets rot faster than wood. Dolly sat back, pale. Her hands fidgeted with her handkerchief. "She was one of us," she whispered. And all the while, Marple placed a steady hand on her arm. Betrayal always comes closest to home. That is why it wounds deeper. Slack paced. Her debts, her habits, her lies, all stacked against her. He shook his head, and Abel trusted her till the end. Dolly pressed her lips tight. She lived off his pride, off his kindness, and killed him when truth drew near. Marple spoke quietly. Pride blinds more than rage. Abel's pride in his accounts made him sharp, but it also left him blind to the danger at his table. Haydock sighed. Greed finished the rest. Small debts piled into poison, small lies into murder. The villagers gathered near, their voices low. Whispers ran from one to another. She poisoned him, all along, and Weller helped her hide it. Marple's gaze swept them. Not all helped. Some were tools, some only pawns. But yes, the truth was never far. It rested in her smallest gestures, the way she tied knots, the water she preferred, the tea she bought, habits louder than words. Dolly looked stricken. So it wasn't cleverness. It was carelessness. Marple nodded slowly. Carelessness born of habit. No one can erase their own pattern, not even in crime. Slack muttered. Justice will hold her now. She can't weep her way out of this. The villagers fell quiet again. No gossip this time, only silence. The kind that sits heavy after truth is laid bare. Dolly whispered, "It makes me wonder who we truly know, and who we only think we know." Marple's eyes softened. "We know no one fully. Pride and greed live in shadows. And secrets, Dolly's secrets, rot faster than wood." For a long moment, no one spoke. The chest sat open, empty now, yet still heavy with meaning. Slack turned toward the door. "I'll see her brought in. The court can finish what we began." Marple stayed seated. Her eyes were distant, her thoughts far deeper than the room. She murmured, almost to herself, "One chest told its story." But stories seldom end with one box. Just then, a sound, a soft scrape at her cottage door. Dolly stiffened. A folded slip of paper slid across the floorboards. Marple bent, picked it up. Her eyes scanned the short line. "Another chest remains.